My name is Craig Palmer, host of the Good, the Bad, the Odd online dating podcast. And I want to introduce my
Can you
co
see?
host.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I,
No.
I can hear you.
No.
Yes, I can hear you. You're kind of breaking up a little bit. So let me introduce my co host. There she goes, Rosalind Williams. All right. So we've been off for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, let me first apologize. I was traveling and could not do the podcast due to insufficient Wi-Fi. You would think Wi-Fi is available everywhere on the planet. That's just not the case. So I'm glad to be back, and now we see you again.
Okay.
Okay.
I think
I
I'm
think
gonna
I'm going
have
to
to
have to
use
use
my
my
phone.
phone.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about um, how religion impacts the whole online dating. And the actual topic is, how has your relationship with God impacted your online dating life? So, and Rothan and I was discussing it earlier because religion is really interesting. I was looking the other day at what's this girl's name? Oh, Kendra G, right? And Kendra G was interviewing a woman, and she said to the woman, you know,
See that?
huh?
I
I
know
know
where where
where
you're
you're
going.
going.
Yeah, you're appearing on the screen twice, so you might need to get
Okay.
rid of one of these because it's creating an echo. And so what she said to the woman is, everybody wants a God-fearing man. And then she asked the woman, what's your favorite Bible scripture? And the woman was like, I don't know. And she's like, but you want a God fearing man? And so I really found it interesting that, hold on, because you're appearing twice. So you might
Okay.
want to log out and just log back in because both of them are popping up. Yeah. But so I just found it interesting, and I could just tell you from being online, what I found is that a lot of women, in their profiles refer to religion, right? Which, makes a lot of sense. But, you know, there are a lot of guys out there who might be spiritual, but not necessarily religious. And that could scare off some guys, right? Because they might feel like they're they have to live up to a certain standard, right? And you might not be able to live up to that standard. Besides the fact, there are a lot of women out there that I kind of feel like you should be very careful in what you ask for. Because guys that I know that are very religious can also be very domineering, right? And controlling. What do you think about that, Rosalind?
Well, I don't like to pigeonhole people and say, you know, they could be either way because people that are not religious can be dominant as well. So it just depends on the person. But I do agree with you that you really have to watch what you ask for. And not just do it because it's a cliche or something that everybody is saying or because you there's a reason why you're asking for it. Is it because you feel like that these type of men that you can dominate more because you can use religion uh, as an excuse to be able to do what you want to do, or you feel like religion will be the will be will the religion will help you to be able to um, be better in the relationship or make the difference, and it doesn't. It is not all, that's not always the case. And it's interesting because I seen a clip of that today, and I just laughed. I could not believe it. I said, this lady's asking for a God-fearing man, and she doesn't even know what's her favorite scripture. And I'm so glad that Kendra G called her out on that, because it's not just what's your favorite scripture. Someone else in the comments said, well, does he even own a Bible? You know what I mean? It's like you're asking for these things, and you can't be what you're asking for. And it reminds me of things that I often tell women that I talk to. It's like, oh, I want a man to buy me this bag, or I want them to take me to a really nice restaurant, or I want to go on these expensive vacations, or, I want them to treat me to the spa. You want these men to do all these things for you, things that you have never done for yourself, or you can't do for yourself. You don't even know what that lifestyle looks like, smells like, tastes like, but you want it all. And you can't even provide any of that for yourself. So I just have an issue with that. I really do. It's like if you, and of course, when you get with someone, you want your life to be enhanced, but you want to enhance their life as well. So it's not just about what they're bringing to the table. It's also, what are you bringing to the table? Now, here she is. She's saying she wants a man that is a God fearing man, and you can't even quote a Bible verse. Well, honey, how can you even lay hands on him or even pray for him or even know the word to even speak over him? I mean, but you want someone that's God fearing. And it's like that doesn't even add up. So yeah, I do have an issue with that.
I kind of feel like women who really want someone God fearing and like religious, very religious, I kind of feel like they really should focus either on some of the religious dating apps that are out there, like Christian Singles and stuff like that,
Mhm.
or and I hear mixed results when I ask women that they want someone very religious. Why the hell you don't get someone at church? And what they say is everybody at church is kind of booed up. You know what I mean? Like they're married, they're mainly couples at church. But when I went to church, I was single, and it seemed like, quite honestly, there was some guys that was sitting in front of me, like three or four guys. I mean, I don't know their life, but they kind of looked like they were single too, to be honest with you.
Well, let me say this, everybody's not booed up in church. And to be honest with you, some of these people, they're on these dating, most of them are on these dating sites too, because I remember years ago when I was on, I think it was Black People Meet. And
Mhm.
I'm looking like, this guy goes to my church, this guy goes to my church. And I'm wondering to myself, why are these people, they're not even approaching women. They're on the dating site, but they're not approaching women in the church. There's so many single people. One of the reasons why, and I was told, I hope you can hear me well. Is
I
there
can hear you.
interference? Okay. So I was told that one of the reasons why people choose not to date people in the church is because they don't want to get their business spread. You know, they know, and some of these men and women, know that they are going to do the antithesis of what they say that they're gonna, of what Christianity, quote unquote, speaks against, right? They know they're gonna sleep around. Some of them know they're full of drama, and they don't want to get caught. And I'm not saying everyone, I'm not lumping everyone in that category, but some of them know that they are going to do the opposite of what Christianity speaks against. So they don't want their business spread around in the church. And that's the easiest way to get your business spread around. So they date outside the church so they won't create a bad name for themselves. Um, and I've been in these single groups and things at church, and some of these people, I mean, if you say you want a God fearing man, one of the things is like, okay, so you want a God fearing man, but then the man, the woman is trying to hold the man to uh, a certain barometer or
Hmm.
caliber of not sleeping with them. But then you end up sleeping with them, and then they call you out on it, or you're called out on it, or it spreads in the church that you're sleeping, you're going from one man to another. So, there's so many different, aspects of it, but it's not that easy because church is a microcosm. It's nothing but the world. I mean, it's not like it's going to be so much different, but it's just condensed. And then,
Hmm.
you have people, knowing your business. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I would kind of think church is almost like work in a sense. Like
Hmm.
I always tell my clients, um, I always try to dissuade them from dating people they work with,
Hmm.
because if it doesn't work out, you're going to have to see that person. Well, in this particular instance, you're going to see them every Sunday, right? Like
Hmm.
I had a client once, like I told you, I tell my clients not to date people they work with, right? So the guy, he starts dating the manager, right? I'm not even going to say where, but he starts dating the manager, and I got him the job. And then a few months later, he calls me. He's like, "Listen, I'm gonna need you to help me get another job." So I said, "Well, what happened with the one I got you?" He says, "I got fired." I said, "You got fired? What happened?" He says, "My boss fired me." I said, "Well, what did you do wrong?" He says, "Well, I was dating the manager. We moved in with each other,
Oh, my
and she
goodness.
didn't like something, so she fired me, and now she kicked me out. So now he didn't have a place to live, right?
Doesn't have a
and
job.
and he don't have a job. And this is why I tell
Wow.
folks, don't date people you work with. So
Hmm.
I can understand why you might not date someone at your church,
Hmm.
but maybe date someone at a different church. I mean,
Hmm.
the black community has no shortage of churches and liquor stores, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, in Harlem, there's like a church on every other block, right?
Well, I don't know if I would say don't date someone in your church. I think that's a great place to meet people, but you just have to be very careful of what you're doing. I think if you're like minded, and you have to be selective. So if you're meeting someone in the church, everyone is not full of games, or everyone is not someone that just wants to sleep with you and sleep with other women, or vice versa. There are some people that may be like minded that you can find in church and that can quote a scripture, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know a scripture they can quote. So I wouldn't say to not to do it. I would just say that I would be cautious if you decide to do it, and know that your business could be spread, and it's a high probability that it will. So you have to be very careful. If you don't want anyone to know you're sleeping around, if you're not going to sleep, hey, just don't sleep around. And if you make up your mind, hey, I'm not going to have sex until marriage, I mean, which is the best thing. I mean, really, but
Why is that the
but
best
if
thing?
well, for many reasons, we won't get into those for many reasons. And one of the reasons is what we're talking about, the thing that people fear the most. And one, being used, being taken advantage of, the fear of their business being spread around, and the fear of disappointing God, the fear of disappointing yourself. There's so many different reasons why. And then after a while, you sleep around, sleep around, sleep around, and then it's like, okay, so who am I? What do I have left? You know, you don't even realize that. And I mean, I can go on a long tirade about this, but eventually you lose your identity in all of that. And so, as a woman. And so there are many reasons why women, you know, take a hiatus or even say that they're celibate. And I want to speak on that because it's interesting because I was reading something that a woman the other day, and a woman mentioned that she was celibate. Oh, no, she was practicing abstinence, sorry, and because there's a difference. And so she said she was practicing abstinence, and the guy mentioned, he said, commented, and he said, now, you've had sex for all these years, and all of a sudden you want to be abstinent, and you expect people to wait for you. You used up, and now after you used up, now you want to be abstinent. And I'm just like, wow, how disrespectful. Whether your journey is to be celibate or whether your journey is to be abstinent because you've been there, done that, got the t shirt, didn't work for you, you feel used and abused, or you've lost your identity in sex and just having sex and not having anything to account for it. Um, whatever your story is, it's your right. And a woman has a right to make her decisions in her own body, and no one has a right to tell her what she should or should not do or how she should view herself for doing it. And so I just really felt, I really felt bad about that because the world judges people based on their own decisions, and you have to do what's best for you. And whether someone likes it or not, you're doing what's best for you. No one knows the trauma, no one knows the struggle, no one knows what you've gone through and the reason why you made that decision. So no one has a right to tell you how to live your life. Some people do it, some women have been abused and raped and traumatized, and for whatever reason they might feel like, hey, I'm making a decision that I have to heal my soul. I need to heal my body, my mind, and I need to be right for the next person. I don't think that anyone gives a man any flack when he says, hey, I'm not ready for a relationship. And all I want to do right now is hang out and be friends. And he's probably doing the same thing. But the only thing he might be doing is sleeping around. But he's doing the same thing. Hey, you know what? Hey, I think right now I'm going to pump the brakes because right now I can't give that person what they may want or what they need, and the same thing for a woman. She might feel like, hey, I'm pumping the brakes because I can't give you what you want or what you need because I don't have anything to give. And I think everybody has a right. At first I didn't know how to really grapple with that when a man would tell me that. I'm like, you're such a coward. Be a man. But I would rather a man be honest with me if he feels like he's been broken, if he feels like he's been hurt or he's gone through and he's not ready for a relationship. I would rather him be honest than to not be honest with me. And I think the same thing for a woman. Everybody
Well,
has their own right.
I think there are different levels of relationships. And I mean, yeah, there are relationships that don't involve intimacy, and there are relationships that do. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I think you have to kind of accept, the relationship that you want. Now,
Hmm.
there's this young lady I met online a while ago, and we really, really vibed, right? And
Hmm.
I was tempted to invite her on the show tonight because when I think
Hmm.
about religion, I always think about her, right?
Hmm.
Because she says she's not having sex until marriage, right?
Hmm.
And I think she has like two or three kids already, right? And I said, you're not having sex till marriage, right? Like, w- w- and she wants to get married, and I'm like, well, why would a guy marry you without having sex with you first? Like, I don't understand, right?
Why wouldn't they?
And
Why
well,
wouldn't they?
because why would you? because if you don't have sex with
Why
them
would you buy
before
the
marriage,
cow and you haven't
right? Why
you
would you
haven't
buy a
tasted the
car? With
milk?
Why would you buy a car without test driving it?
Oh my goodness. See, well, see, Craig, that comes from a whole nother perspective. And that
Hmm.
is that well, and I'm gonna say that's the mind of a person that is carnally minded. Of course they would feel that way. But for a person that feels like they have to do something because it's between them and God, then they gotta live and they have a right to live and make the
You're right.
decisions
I
that's
completely
best for
agree.
them.
Completely agree. I mean, if the person doesn't want to have sex prior to marriage, then they should do that. But I'm just
Hmm.
saying, understand. Um, and I have a lot of male friends, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of them agree. Listen, they're not. You got to understand something, and this is where I think women don't understand sometimes. Marriage is for supposed to be forever, right? So
Hmm.
you're not gonna, at least for me, I'm not marrying someone without making certain that we're vibing on every level. You
Hmm.
can't, the physical level, you can't tell if you're vibing on the physical level if you didn't haven't been intimate with the person. How can you tell? You're gonna marry this person, and because listen, I've heard of instances, right,
I have
where
two.
a woman she married this guy, right, and this is a true story. She married this guy. He was gung ho, well off, had a nice big house, treated her, you know, like a queen, right? And she was saying, "Oh, I wanna kind of wait till marriage before, because she said she was saying to herself, you know what, I'm gonna try something different. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
sleep with the guy before I get married, right?" And the guy was all for that. He was like, "Okay, you know what? I support your decision, and we can wait till we get married, right?" They, I think they would 7 months. After 7 months, she's in heaven. He's feeling her. They get married, right? And she's
Hmm.
like, they have a storybook, a wedding, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, they're gonna be so happy, this and that." And then she finds out after they get married that he suffers from erectile dysfunction
Hmm.
and he can't maintain an erection, right? And she's like, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" And he's like, "Well, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, and this and that." Right. So now, she wants to be intimate with her partner, and it's not what she thought it was going to be. Right. And she's saying to herself, "Well, any other guy would have, attempted to be intimate with her prior to marriage, but he was like all for it. And of course, he had a reason why he, was willing to wait." Right.
Hmm.
And so, from a female standpoint, if I was a female, and I'm not saying you should sleep with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is when you do meet that person that you have a connection with, that they check off a lot of the boxes, listen, you need to make certain that box is checked off as well. Because we're talking about forever. We're not talking about a year, 2 weeks, 10 years. We're talking about potentially forever. And you're going to take a chance that, you know what? Because women assume that, let me not say they assume, because you're a woman. So you can answer this better than I can. But I
Hmm.
seem to think that a lot of women believe that they're just great sexually. Like if you tell, because like when I've said to a woman, listen, that a woman isn't great sexually, how's that possible? Well, how is that possible? Of course it's possible.
Well, I think men do too, because I hear men that have said, and friends have told me that he may say, some men are pretty honest about ED and some men aren't. But I've heard friends say that men have said, hey, I may not, there may be something, I may have to take a pill for damn man, but I can still satisfy you. I may, there are other ways that I can satisfy you. So men think that, it's only but so much you're going to do of that until you get tired of it. The other. Um, choice. But I just think, when it comes to trying out prior to, um, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make things that that's the best way to do things, because you can be fine for a year, a few years, but at some point somebody is going to suffer some type of deficit, and how are you going to deal with it? And this is happening, this ED issue is happening more often than not. I mean, my goodness, every time you turn around, someone's dealing with the ED issue, and women are not finding out. But I got a story that's even worse than that, and I think, and this is in the news now, I'm suspecting that this man that married the woman, from what I understand, maybe they met online. He's a pastor, and he ended up marrying this woman, and I suspect that they never consummated the marriage,
Right.
because he didn't find out into his wedding night that the woman was, what, transsexual. She was trans, and he killed her. This happened in Texas. He killed the lady.
Oh my
Hmm.
God.
Yeah. So, um, we didn't find out until the day of the marriage. And so, I mean, and this is happening more often. What men are talking about, they're meeting other men, and they're thinking they're women, and they look just as good as a woman. I am not encouraging to have sex before marriage. I am not encouraging that. Actually, I'm discouraging that, because there's so much that comes along with it. However, I mean, many people do, and for various reasons, and I'm not saying it's just because of the ED issue, or because you think you're going to be with someone that's the same sex. Um, it can be, spiritual reasons as well. But I mean, it's just a lot that comes along with it, and I can see why people, would not want to sexually. But you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Listen,
You really don't.
what I've learned is, and it's funny because there was when I used to have Facebook, there was this guy who's a law professor on Facebook, and I'm gonna reach out to him one day when I have when I get Facebook again. And
Mhm.
he jokingly would say he encourages the first date to be at the pool.
Really? Why so?
Because if you get in the water, it's going to wash off the makeup. It's going to wash off, like you're going to see what you're getting, right? And for me, um, you know, I think my transsexual radar is at a high. Like I think I could tell when a woman was formerly a guy, right? And I get it. Listen, they got the RuPauls of the world and all that kind of stuff. Like the RuPaul has a show where I think there's a bunch of guys on there, and they kind of there's a contest to see who looks more like a woman and all that kind of stuff, right? But there are
Hmm.
there's two things that you can't change on a guy. There's no way of changing them.
The Adam's apple?
No, not because you can
No.
yeah, you can actually have surgery to minimize your Adam's apple, right?
Oh.
But there's no surgery for your hands, and there's no surgery for your feet. There's the two things that you can't change. Now you can remove a rib and make yourself even slimmer, right? And have like a almost like a woman's figure, make it like more of a
Hmm.
figure eight type of thing, right? You can enhance your buttocks, you can enhance your breasts, because guys can take estrogen and develop breasts. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So those are things you can do, but you can't change your hands and you can't
Mm.
change your feet. And
Interesting.
so if I see a woman who has big hands,
Hmm. You already know, huh?
no,
Interesting.
right? And she might really be a woman, right? I'm just saying, like, but if you got big hands, no, no, no.
Wow.
And if you got big feet, You wearing like a size 12 as a woman. And listen, there are women with big feet. Like there's women in the WNBA with big feet, I'm sure. But
Oh,
big feet and big hands, no. And you, like I said, you
so
might. Oh, go ahead.
go on. No, go on.
So and so, I get it, and this is
Mm-hmm.
why, um, you got. I hate to say this, but you've almost got to ask sometimes a woman. Have you always been a woman? You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
hate. I hate to ask that.
you have to ask that.
The
So
same
I took.
way, no, no, just to add to that, the same way women have said, have you ever been with a man? Have you ever thought about being with a man? For me, the
Mhm.
answer is no, no, and definitely no.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
definitely. Yeah. So I looked this up. I went to look it up because, I like to deal with facts. And this happened, let me see, April 24, 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Was a Ghanaian pastor, Isaac, who is residing in Texas, has been arrested for stabbing his wife, Sandra, more than 40 times, leading to her tragic death.
Mm-hmm.
The gruesome act happened on their wedding night when Isaac discovered that Sandra was a transgender. Isaac, who has chosen to follow biblical teaching by abstaining from intimacy until their marriage night, became enraged under learning of Sandra's gender identity. What should have been a celebration of their union quickly turned into a violent tragedy. So, there you have it. It's like I understand, I understand waiting, and like I said, I'm not against it. But it's just, for many reasons people feel like, they should do it, and many people feel like they shouldn't. Okay.
Well, I kind
It's
of
kind of
look at it
interesting.
from another perspective too, which is we're not 21 anymore. You know what I mean? Like, listen, we're in our 40s and 50s. Like, what are you holding on to it for? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
you're not promised tomorrow. There are people dying in their 40s and 50s,
Yeah.
right? So you could be
So get you
holding,
some while you can. Right?
right?
Is that
Like,
what you're saying?
listen, let's say you're 50, right?
Well,
And you're dating someone for 2 years, right? And you
mhm.
finally say to yourself, okay, I'm going to wait till marriage, right? And you get married at 52, and the person dies 2 weeks later, right?
Mm.
That's 2 years that you could have been enjoying each other, but because you decided to wait, you just lost 2 years. Right? Like I don't get it. Like I mean,
Oh
I'm
my
not like I said.
goodness.
I'm not saying a person. Like I said, I'm not advocating sleeping with everyone, but I'm just saying like if you are vibing on all the different levels, right, and your instincts, because I'm a very big believer in trusting your instincts, because I feel instincts are a better barometer for determining if someone is ideally suited for you. If your instincts tell you, you know what, let me try and see what happens, you gotta kind of, I think you gotta kind of rock with it. You know what I mean? Obviously, protect yourself, and stuff like that. But holding on to marriage, and I get it. There's some folks because of biblically, they want to kind of wait, and that's fine. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but I'm just saying that you know the more prudent way would be like if you ever watched Sex in the City, right? Sex in the City, um, Charlotte, wanted to marry Trey, and they decided, you know what, we're gonna wait till marriage. And I think the day or a couple of days before her marriage, she wanted to be intimate with him, and he couldn't get it up. And so she tells her girlfriend Carrie, excuse me, what am I doing here? I'm getting ready to marry a guy and he can't get it up. And Carrie tells her, well, how's everything else? And she's like, well, yeah, everything else is good, but he can't get it up.
Hmm.
And then, kind of like what you said, oh, well, he could please you in other ways. And you're like, kind of flip, right? She wanted everything. And so she ends up marrying him. And that was a big issue during the relationship. Now, we're not talking, of course, this is television, but that television mirrors real life because there are instances. I can't tell you how many times I've heard women say that because they weren't able to be intimate with their husband, the marriage fell apart. That's an important part of any relationship. So I just think you should, be comfortable with the decision. And when you're comfortable, go for it. But like I said, not suggesting sleep with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but if your instincts tell you, yo, this feels good, and listen, let's be clear, relationships do end. You know what I mean? Sometimes just because you're involved with someone doesn't necessarily mean because you could be intimate with someone after a year and it not work out. Okay, you could be intimate with someone after a month and it don't work out. So how long you wait isn't going to determine the success of the relationship. What's going to determine the success of the relationship is if you vibe on all the different levels. You know, if you both see things the
Mhm.
same way, ultimately, do you have compatibility? Like, I've realized that compatibility, we kind of don't realize how important it really is, right? For instance, I'll give you an example. Do you like horror pictures?
I do. Well,
Okay,
well, it depends. Not that much, but somewhat. Nothing gory. Yeah,
okay.
somewhat,
So,
but that's not my go-to.
so, you know, I like horror pictures, right? And I recognize horror pictures are just that, pictures. They're movies. So when I see a horror picture, I'm not adversely affected. It's not going to keep me up at night or nothing like that. But there's some women that they're against horror pictures. Like they will not stop and watch a horror picture. They're like, no, they're not watching horror. And you're like, oh, so every time you stop, you want to watch a movie, if there's the slightest bit of horror or something that's going to scare them, they're like, no, 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 I don't want to watch that. And it might be something that you really want to see, and you're like, okay, right? And then you got to compromise and watch something else, right? Then another thing that might be that you're not compatible with, right? For instance, let's just say I'm an early riser and you like to sleep late. And I like to stay up late and you like to go to bed early. Now, that might sound like something just so minor, like, oh, what's the big deal? The big deal is that if I'm staying up late, right, and you're going to bed early, I might disturb you because we're sleeping together. So if I'm watching television at like 11, 11:30 at night, and you're like, I can't go to sleep, you got the TV on, right? And you're like, well, I like to watch TV at night. And the person, like, they want to go to bed like 10, 10:30, right? That's so minor, but it's so, um, that compatibility is so important. Like, those little things that you're compatible with can make a huge, huge difference, right? I can't hear you. I think your microphone might be muted because it says here it's muted. So you might want to take a look at it on your end, right? But religion is something that is, really something that's gonna, in a lot of cases, prevent, I think, women from finding their um, their partner. Okay. Now I can hear you. So I would tell anyone, like, really ask a lot of questions, right? And just see, honestly, if you two are on the same path morally. You know, like I try to use a very simple philosophy, which is treat people the way you want to be treated, right?
Mhm.
So if you're watching someone, how they treat someone, if they're rude to folks, they don't say thank you, they don't, like, I know I've heard women say this, and I'm a big believer of this too. How you tip someone, right? Like that tells you about how, some people are. Are they giving, right? Like I heard a story recently that I just found it to be the most interesting thing, right? Now, you know who Lala Anthony is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I saw something the other last week where they said that Carmelo Anthony got a divorce because his wife went to a nonprofit and asked for the donation that her husband gave to the nonprofit back. So he donated $20 million to some sort of nonprofit, and she didn't like the fact that he did that without her approval. So she went to the nonprofit and said, "Yo, I want the money back." And they had to give her the money back. And then he had to sue her for her to give the money back to the nonprofit. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like, this guy, he's the one that's making the millions. And let's just say he had 40 million, 100 million, whatever he has. He decides to donate some to cancer research. And she says, supposedly, she said, what did they do for us? I'm like, what?
Oh my goodness.
I could see why he would be like, yo, and she said something, and obviously I wasn't there. I'm just saying what this is what they quoted in her saying. She said that um, she's looking out for her family.
Mm.
Still, your husband's a millionaire. I mean,
Mm.
he's not going to give $20 million unless he's got some other millions stashed.
Absolutely.
And so she went. So they sued, and she ended up having to give the money back to the nonprofit. So I just found that to be amazing. And so you've got to be careful. This is why I say you have to realistically know who you're dealing with, right? Because I could just tell you, a lot of people kind of felt like she was a gold digger. Because I remember her from being on MTV. I think she was like one of those VJs or whatever, and seemed nice and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that she would try to get that money back says a lot about her, right? So, and I mean, what parts of the Bible? I haven't really read the Bible in a minute. I used to go to Bible study when I was a kid all the time, every Sunday. But I haven't read the Bible from cover to cover in a long time. But there are things in the Bible, just kind of like how you have these, um, what do they call them? Evangelists, right? And, they can kind of turn the Bible to, um, to almost justify anything, right? And so I see a lot of instances, I've seen instances where, guys who are, like I told you before, because they're very religious, they'll say, they don't want a woman to have a voice because in the Bible says, the woman should follow and the man should lead, right? And so they're not listening to what a woman says, even though she might have a good suggestion or, and so, like I said, when you asking for someone to be, very religious, I'll give you another example, matter of fact. I used to know this young lady who ended up marrying this guy who was Muslim, and she had to change her whole lifestyle. She had to go from wearing jeans to not being able to wear jeans anymore, because I guess in the Nation of Islam they don't want their women dressed in jeans. So
Mhm.
she had to wear like skirts, and she had to have her hair covered, and just a bunch of things. And I'm like, religion is fine, but depending upon the religion that you choose, like look at some of these religions. I think in like that ultimately they call them cults, right? Like there was this religion. I can't remember the name of the religion, um, but in California there was this guy who's had like some sort of church, and he was telling the women they had to give all give up all of their properties and all their wealth to the pastor,
Mhm.
right? And and follow his lead. And it was real crazy. I saw it on American Greed. It was just really kind of crazy. So you've got to be kind of careful about religion, because if you're very religious, listen, the Bible can, people can use the Bible to kind of dictate how they can kind of um,
Manipulate you.
manipulate you. Exactly. Perfect. Exactly. And so you got to look at the other things as well. Just don't look
Mhm.
at it from a biblical standpoint.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, because some people don't even use like common sense. I believe God gives us wisdom, and some people don't even use wisdom. Like those things are extreme. They are cults. And I mean, you hear so much out here with churches where the pastors are telling women to do certain things and allow them to do certain things to them. And it's, nowhere in the Bible are those things biblical. But, people are not even using common sense these days, and they are allowing religion um, to dictate
Right.
what they do. And people are very manipulative when it comes to spirituality. I remember even dating someone, and there was so much pressure put on this person and I to get married, because the church got a whiff of us being together for almost a year or so, and they're like, well, when are you going to get married? Sometimes the church puts so much pressure on you to do certain things that really you're not even ready for, and or pushing two people together, that shouldn't be together, or pushing two people together that maybe the woman ended up getting pregnant. And it's like, oh, you need to get married. It's like, wait a minute. These people, yeah, they had sex outside of marriage. Um, but are they compatible?
Hmm.
Is that even going to work? So religion has forced things to happen that shouldn't take place. So sometimes you really have to, not sometimes, but all the time, you really have to use common sense. You have to have wisdom.
Well, it's
Um,
so funny because I know a pastor, right? And at the church, and he's a pastor at the Kingdom Hall, right?
mhm,
And so in the Kingdom Hall, they don't believe in adultery, or they don't believe in sex prior to marriage, right?
mhm,
And so he was engaged like four different times to like four different women at the Kingdom Hall, right? Because he was just, you know, he wanted to get married right away because he wanted to quote unquote have sex, right?
mhm,
And he know he couldn't have sex unless he was married, right? So he was engaged four times, and it fell apart for whatever reason. And so the fifth time, right, he was going to get married. He's a month away from the marriage, right? And you think, okay, the wedding is set. They're gonna get married, this and that. And the woman, she gets cold feet at the last minute. Like a couple of weeks before the marriage, she gets cold feet, right? So take a wild guess what happened. Take a wild guess.
Okay. So she gets cold feet. They didn't get married. He ended up finding somebody else and marrying them. Like,
Yeah, he married her sister. Right? Because he's like, listen, he wanted to get married,
he really wanted
and
to get married.
and
Was he really?
there are
He
women
met.
at the church that they're more concerned with the act than who they're marrying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so he married the girl's sister, right? And they had no prior relationship. They knew each other obviously because they all go to the same church. But he was like, "Screw this! I want to get married." The sister, I don't want to say she was. I don't want to call her an old maid, but she was in her late 40s, never been married, right, and didn't think she had a lot of prospects out there, and so he wanted to get married. She was available, and they got
Did they
married.
stay together? I wonder, are they still
Yeah,
together?
they're still together. They've been married. Now it's been about 15 years now. They've been married.
Really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Now
So he was ready. I mean,
he
I
was
guess.
ready.
Well, he really wanted to have sex. So see, that's one of the religions that I mean they are definitely cultish. That's in my opinion.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, other people have their opinions, but they will push you to do things that you're not even ready for, that you don't even think about. I mean,
Hmm.
and or you're going to be, what do they call it, disbarred or something from the church, and what is it? You're what are they? They have a name for it where you can't participate within the
Yeah.
congregation. And it's just crazy.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's one of the religions that push you to make decisions.
And
Uh,
so is Muslim. Muslim, they don't
oh
believe
yeah.
in sex prior to marriage.
Mhm.
And then I know a gentleman who married this woman, after 6 months because, he was dating her and everything seemed fine, and he says, okay, he wanted to get married.
Mhm.
And they got married after 6 months. And after they get married, he finds out that she has, um, bad credit. He finds out that she um, had like a lot of financial issues. He found out that she pays alimony.
Oh,
Things that
come on, common sense. He should have
he
taken. You find
this
those
this is
things
the
out before you get married. Oh,
but
that's
get but
silly.
but guess what? You don't ask. Listen, I would never ask a woman if she pays alimony. That's not a question that you would normally ask.
Well, why wouldn't you? If the woman has, well, I understand because most women, I mean, 9 times out of 10, wouldn't be the woman paying alimony. But it
Exactly.
does happen. And I mean, but you should at least talk about your financial um, position, where you are financially, and the bills you're paying out monthly. Those things, I mean, you should disclose those things, and
Of
people need to
course.
ask questions.
And listen,
It's
I
just,
recall there was a young lady I was talking to online. This was a while ago. And, I was asking her questions, and she was like, well, why do I feel like I want an interview? Right. And I said, well, you are on an interview. If the person is spending time, potentially want to spend time with you, they have to get to know you. They have to ask you
hmm
questions. We can't
hmm
just assume anything. And so, like I asked her, what does she do for a living? Why? Well, why? Because I want to make certain you're not, doing something illegal. You know what I mean? Like, um, you know, it just, it's like, well, you're online dating, right?
absolutely.
That comes, questioning comes along with it, right?
hmm
The person has to get to know you,
hmm
and I mean, maybe the sequence of questions isn't because listen, the first thing I ask someone is, how many kids you got? You know, how old are your kids? Because I can
Mhm.
just tell you, and right off the bat, when the person says my kid is 2, no, we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then you even have to ask, I had met someone online, just talked to him briefly over the phone, and we exchanged messages several times, and then it went from online to on the phone. And so I happened to be telling him about a situation that, I definitely check people's background, people
Mm-hmm.
who work with me, I have to. So I guess he felt the need to complain.
Mm-hmm.
And he said this, I think we had only, it may have been the first or second time that he and I had a conversation, but he felt the need to complain and say that he had been to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he had been to prison for, for drugs. And, and I I have gotten that out of men maybe after the third or fourth time we've talked, and or they don't complain at all.
Mm-hmm.
So he felt the need to tell me that, and I'm glad he did because I can then make an educated decision of whether or not I want to continue to date him. Now I remember a while prior to that, maybe some years ago, and it was this guy that I had met online. Only he lived in another state, so we never met face to face.
Mm-hmm.
But just a fine. I mean, this guy was just gorgeous, and we were talking. But when we were talking, his life wasn't sinking. There were like dashes in between.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the type of job that he had, and that's another thing, and I'm not saying that that's a telltale sign, but it's one of the telltale signs, ladies. I have to let you know. Sometimes guys get in these jobs, and whether it's a truck driving job, a warehouse job, or a job where you can escape really doing even if you do have a felony, there are listed jobs that if you do have a felony, they will still hire you. And I'm not saying that ever worked in a prison system. And I'm not saying that everybody has a felony deserves to have it. Nor am I saying that people can't um, turn their lives around. Nor am I saying that they're not bad, they're all bad people. I'm not saying that. You just have to make a decision if, some fellas, they can't get on the plane, they can't travel outside of the country, or they may have a limited income because of their job. It's limited, and the amount of money that they're bringing is limited. And there are some places you're not going to be able to live. So you have to make a decision on whether or not that's the type of person you want. And it's okay if you choose to or you choose to not. But I believe in being open and honest with the person and letting them know what your background is. And you have to ask these questions now. So this guy that I met some time ago online, he, like I said, drop dead gorgeous, but there were too many dashes. And and I ended up looking at his profile on Facebook, and there was a dash. I mean, a long dash. And then I started looking at some of the pictures that he posts, his past posts. And I asked him, I said,
Okay. We lost Rosalind, and right in the middle of that story, I was looking forward to hearing the rest of that story. But yeah, listen, I'm all for a woman doing a background check. I have no issue with that. I think that, especially if you have children, you know what I mean? If you have children, if you have to, quietly, I mean, me personally, if a woman does a background check, I kind of think she should kind of keep it to herself. Don't tell the guy you did a background check on him. Keep it to yourself. And you know, and that way just for your own personal safety. But let me thank everyone who was listening tonight on YouTube, and those folks listening to the show on the various podcast platforms. I want to thank everyone. My name is Craig Palmer, the host of the Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating show, and we will see you next Tuesday. Well, the reason, and just before we wrap up, the reason why you shouldn't tell a guy that you did a background check is because he might feel insulted, right? And you might find nothing is there, which is fine. Why does he need to know that you did a background check? But let's say you did find something there. It's going to hurt his feelings that you were, checking him out. So to me, the best way to do it is just say, you know what, we're not vibing or whatever, and kind of end it. And he never knew you ended it because you found out something in his background, right? Um, hey, Rosalind. So I was just answering a question. I don't think you saw the question, so I'm gonna just post it on there real quick. But I was saying that I'm all for what you just mentioned, potentially doing a background check on someone. And if you do a background check on someone, I kind of think the woman should keep it to herself. If you find out something in a person's background that you don't like, if I was a woman, I wouldn't tell the guy. I would just kind of break it off and say, hey, things didn't work out or whatever. Use whatever excuse you want, but I wouldn't tell him you did a background check. But I was just wrapping up. It's 10 o'clock. Wanted to thank everybody who watched and joined the show. And I want to thank my co host, Rosalind Williams, as well. Did you want
I
to
don't
say?
know if you can hear me.
I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you now.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to
Forgive
wrap
me,
up
I'm
that
having all
story?
kinds of technical issues.
Not a
I'm
problem.
sorry.
Did you want to just wrap up that story you were mentioning?
Him his
Yeah.
past if he had ever been to prison. He said he had been to prison. Um,
Yeah. Your audio, your audio's not coming in well.
No, he had enough for over a year. He has a home. He has his business. And he's doing very well for himself. And so it was up to me not to be. It's not I did not want to do. I'm able to be sensitive, but do. I travel, I say a lot because even if he is a good person, and he couldn't do he would prohibit.
All right. So we're gonna wrap up. I know, my apologies. I know Rosalind has had some technical difficulties tonight. But nevertheless, I want to thank everyone who joined the show. And we will see you next Tuesday at 9. Good night.